All right, man. So we got some absolutely huge news coming out of Georgia right now. Sorry if I'm talking a little quiet. I did too loud of karaoke with Kanye. Never doing that loud ever again. But we have some huge news coming out here with the state of Georgia. Some really huge news. So we know right now. I've been doing video. I did a video the other day about how Kamala's surging in the polls in the state of Georgia. But we have a different kind of surge, right? We know she's surging everywhere, and it looks like she's making a lot of people surging. So what's going on here is we can see it says presidential race shakeup sharply increases voter registrations in Georgia. Black women added 75% more registrations than in the same period in 2020. So this is another kind of surge, right? There's the poll surge, but we don't just want to do our forecasting on what's going to happen solely based on the polls. There's a lot of other things we want to take into account. For example, what are the demographic changes that have happened between the last election and current? What power do those people hold? How do those people vote? For example, blacks moving into Georgia, for example, those are very heavily Democratic leaning people, whereas Hispanics, for example, it's more like 65-35. It's not as good as like a 92-8 like black people typically are, right? You want to look at crowd sizes, what's the energy, and then a big one here, voter registrations. A lot of these people are going to get missed by the polls, and so what we want to do, make sure is not just look at the polls, but we also want to look at, okay, what other indicators are there of something really brewing here, for Kamala Harris. And so Georgia, obviously a huge state. Kamala Harris can win the election just simply going off of the Sun Belt, doesn't even need the Rust Belt, and Georgia's going to be a huge part of that. So what it says here, it says presidential race shakeup sharply increased voter registration in Georgia. And so we could take a look at this. They had it blocked, so I'm looking at it from these screenshots here. It says new voters have registered in droves in Georgia since Kamala Harris entered the presidential race, especially black, Hispanic, and young voters, according to state election data. The sharp increase in the rate of registrations suggests an outpouring of enthusiasm among voters who tend to vote for Democratic candidates in Georgia, a politically divided battleground that could decide the winner between Harris and Republican former President Donald Trump. Also, keep in mind, I believe that the enthusiasm numbers currently are actually getting close to '08 numbers, statistically speaking. They're in like the high 70s or low 70s, somewhere like that. So keep that in mind as well. It says black women led the surge with a 75% jump in registrations compared with the same 3.5 weeks period in 2020, according to the most recent voter registration data available from the Georgia Secretary of State's office, stretching from July 21st to August 13th. So it's almost doubling is what that means. Sign-ups by Hispanic voters grew by an even larger percentage, 114% over the 2020 period, though the raw number of new registrations was lower than other racial groups because there are fewer Hispanic voters overall in the state. New voters under 30 years old spiked by 76%. Overall, 50% more voters have registered since July 21st than the same period 4 years ago. It's shocking. I did not expect to see something of this scope, said Tim Bonnier, a Democratic strategist and CEO of the data company Tara Group. Quote, this has the potential to be a game changer in terms of the presidential race. Bonnier's research also found similar leaps in 13 other states since Harris joined the race, and he said Georgia's growth in registrations reinforces an emerging national trend. So talking about all these people who are, becoming eligible to vote, the Republicans are also, I guess, trying to do this as well. They're trying to counteract it. I highly doubt it's really going to be very effective, but they're also trying to do their own thing. And also, here's another big thing too. So it says over 9,600 registrations are, quote, pending because the voters signed up when they were 17 and a half years old, which is allowed in Georgia. They aren't eligible to cast a ballot until they turn 18. So there's also this huge rise with people who are able to register, but they won't be able to vote until later. And so also we have this really important quote as well. So the New Georgia Project said it has helped 39,000 people register so far this year, including first-time voters and those who have changed their names or married names. The group focuses its efforts on people of color, single women, and young voters. It says, while new voters are generally less likely to turn out than longtime voters, people who register soon before an election have a higher propensity to cast a ballot, McDonald said. Voters who register in an election year are more likely to vote, according to a 2007 peer-reviewed study published in the Journal of Politics. And remember, last time it was only decided by 12,000 votes. This is the most important. It says, voters who register in an election year are more likely to vote, according to a 2007 peer-reviewed study published in the Journal of Party Politics. So we have these people as more likely. Also, I think there's some evidence that they actually get missed in the poll numbers as well. So it's not just that they're actually more likely to vote, but the polls are actually going to miss them. That's why we have to include these so-called fundamentals in these projections, because the polls aren't going to tell us everything, because all these black people, these Hispanics, all these groups, these young people, they're going to get missed by the poll numbers. And so Biden already showed evidence of overperformance. He overperformed in GA by almost a full point, which is huge. It was the only reason he emerged victorious in the state. So imagine how much Kamala is going to do. I mean, it's going to be crazy. So for me personally, using historical trends, crowd sizes, etc., plus the polling numbers, I find it impossible for Georgia to go red. But if you want to look also at the general numbers too, these are general numbers. So there's a percent increase in registration generally across 13 states that have updated voter files. And so you can see here, black women, 18 to 29, 175%, so close to tripling their numbers. Hispanic women about like doubling in half, 150%. Women 18 to 29, black women in general doubling, black almost doubling. Again, black voters are huge because they vote like 92.8. And you can see the women shifting almost double, Hispanic women, close to double, et cetera, 18 to 29, almost doubling. The numbers are just insane. And then we can see for Nevada, there's a huge increase in Hispanic women 18 to 29. I think Kamala has seen like an increase sort of with in Nevada numbers as well. Could this be part of the reason? I'm not sure. But we can see here, 221% for Hispanic women 18 to 29. This is only in the state of Nevada though, but still really, really important here. So really, really crazy surges happening. And I think we actually might have, these are, I guess, the numbers for the raw numbers. So you have like white women, the voter numbers are increasing in terms of the raw counts. These are the raw counts. So, black women are almost double, black men, pretty close, not as close. But we can see, these kinds of huge doubles going on. Asian voters also looking like in Georgia, also going big too. Asian voters are also actually pretty reliably Democrat, more reliable than any group except for black people. So it goes like in terms of likelihood to vote blue, it's black, Asian, Hispanic, and then white. So Asians I think are like 75-25, Hispanics are like 65-35. Also in Georgia, Biden lost ground of like 12 points. So again, we can kind of see that. Can she make a big surge? He lost like 14 points or something. He still won. So can that happen? And this is also a video from what has been capped off in the state of Georgia. So this was capped off in the state of Georgia. We can check out this video clip here. You can see, you can hear the energy here. Well, I don't want to get copyrighted actually, so I'll take that off. But what we can see here is lots of energy. I don't know why they didn't do a 360, they did like a 270 here, but the energy is just through the roof. This is in Savannah, Georgia, by the way. This isn't even in Atlanta, right? This is the first time a general election presidential candidate has campaigned here since the 1990s. The energy is through the roof. It's going absolutely insane. The fundamentals look really, really strong. In Georgia, she's taking the lead. She's up by 0.5. She was up 0.7 yesterday. We got this Redfield and Wilton that has +2. If we start here from the end date of the first poll being the 20th, right, which is like kind of recent, we get rid of the focal data polls. You can actually see here she's clearly in the lead by like 1 or 2 points essentially from these polls. If you average this out, it's somewhere around like 1 and 2. So she's actually leading here. The Fox News pollster is A-rated. They have her up 2. The MC poll is kind of low. It's C. Has her up between 1 and 3. The B-rated pollster has her up 1, and then Redfield and Wilton is a real, I call C-tier, C-rated pollster shit tier. Redfield and Wilton is B-rated, or D-rated, it's even worse, right? So this is really shit tier, right? And they have Trump +2. So keep in mind, the worst rated pollster here has the worst margin for Harris. Fox News is an A-rated pollster here, they're +2. So the numbers look really, really good for Kamala Harris in Georgia. And then based on the fundies, based on, crowd size, etc., it seems pretty much impossible that she's going to be able to lose this election because of just all this stuff that's going down. So really, really awesome news for the state of Georgia. And generally speaking, these voter registrations, the enthusiasm is through the roof. And then Kamala Harris also campaigning in areas that people just don't go. So Hillary Clinton doesn't go to Wisconsin. Biden just doesn't do anything in general, right? He doesn't even reach out to House members to ask them to be surrogates. And now we have somebody who's really humble and really trying to ask people, to help her. And so this is why I think ultimately Kamala is, going to end up winning the election.